Over 100 years ago, Mohandas Gandhi began developing and practicing his philosophy of passive resistance that would eventually lead India to freedom. That philosophy, ironically, was born in Africa, in the then rural outskirts of the mining camp of Johannesburg. Today, that house is part of the leafy suburb of Orchards and is run as both a museum and a guest house called Satyagraha House.
It means you forget yourself to help the other people. You forget yourself to help the other people. I think even now we can't imagine that. But in this period, since 100 years, it was very difficult to understand this. But it's working. 100 years after now, we speak about him. The India come free after this movement, Satyagraha.
Satyagraha House was purchased by Voyages du Monde in 2009, Paris-based company that operates in 40 countries to promote universalism.
Because our boss, he liked Gandhi since long time. When he see it was sells this house for sale, they just take 24 hours to decide he will pay this house. Yes, and after that we stay about 2 years to bring this house again 100 years after.
Renovations have seen the house restored to its original spirit, reflecting the history of both South Africa and Mohandas Gandhi, presenting an innovative concept linking guest house to museum. Accommodation is spread out between the original house, 2 rondavels also occupied by the museum, and the dining room which opens onto the back of the garden. The rest of the accommodation is in the modern wing built in 2010, 2 large brick and glass cubes offering 3 rooms, the work of architect Rocco Bosman to complement the original house. A compromise between asceticism and comfort is reached using furniture, objects, fabric and bedding from Gandhi's native state of Gujarat in India. In keeping with the spirit of the site, yoga and meditation classes are available upon reservation. Breakfasts, snacks and dinner are served, prepared from organic produce out of the kitchen garden and other eco-conscious suppliers.
But we make a special kitchen for us, cook, like Indian, South African and French. There's something very different here. It's like we say new age here.
There is no television, alcohol and cigarettes are not allowed, and Wi-Fi is the one small modern concession. The connection with nature extends even to the geothermal underfloor heating, and the water for the garden and other non-drinking purposes comes from a spring on the property. Satyagraha House is ably run by manager Muhammad Al-Sab, whose passion for Gandhi meant he grabbed the opportunity to relocate to South Africa.
I work for this company since about 20 years. And you know, I read a lot about Gandhi. I read a lot. I love this man. He makes something different. We can't imagine that now. And the company, they ask me, if you want to go to South Africa to stay in this house, I tell him, why not? I take my decision in 24 hours. I leave everything in France and I come to stay here. For me, you can't imagine, you live with the history. I live here. And they pay for me for that, you understand? It's wonderful.
His staff, recruited from South Africa, are representative of the diversity of the Rainbow Nation.
Before I used to work at a commercial hotel and I found this place on the internet. It was recently about to open in 2011 and I started working here at that time and I had to teach myself about what the house meant, the history of Gandhi in South Africa, and also reading the exhibition in the house. In order to take people through the house, I had to learn it all here.
Gandhi's time in South Africa was essential to his personal achievement, and his love for the country and its people equaled that of his own country, India. He spent 21 years in South Africa from 1893 to 1914, a period in which he grew from a timid young lawyer who had just passed the bar examination to the man that would lead India to its independence. This living museum encapsulates the man, his time in South Africa, as well as his personal friendships. A beautiful collection of old photos and correspondence journals the story of the many people that were part of Gandhi's life. Large cotton draperies and wooden plaques contain evocative quotes made famous over the decades. Satyagraha House attracts visitors from all over the world. We bumped into Shailesh Karavadra, now living in London, and who was born in Gandhi's hometown.
The simplicity is built into it, which was really renowned for Gandhiji. Gandhiji used to love simplicity, and it cannot be a better place to stay a night or two, to live in the tranquility and the peace and the simplicity of the house.
It also impacts on the lives of the people who are touched by it.
I was on a business tour here, and I did read on some of the travel website that there was this Satyagraha House where Mr. Gandhiji used to stay, and it was a kind of a dream to see this place, and it was really amazing to see it.
Part accommodation, part museum, Satyagraha House encapsulates the spirit of a man that had an enormous impact on the course of South African history. A routine eviction from a whites-only train wagon in Pietermaritzburg gave rise to Gandhi's philosophy of Satyagraha, which would later change the world.